Good morning. Today we are going to begin a new lesson from the book Vistas. The name of the lesson is Evans Tries an O Level. It is written by Norman Colin Dexter, who was an English crime writer known for his Inspector Morse novels, which were written between 1975 and 1999. These novels were also adapted as a television series from 1987 to 2000. The present story is about a criminal named Evans. In this story, Colin Dexter shows how an individual is able to shake the entire police department with his cleverness. Evans was put inside the Oxford prison at Carfax for his criminal records, including the 3 jailbreaks that he had successfully committed. We do not know exactly what the charges against him were. It is most likely he was the master brain of a gang of robbers, or was just a one-man robber who was greatly skilled at impersonating other people, and hence he made an income out of that. However, London police had no other choice than putting him in the most secure prison, where jailbreaks were not at all common. Evans was aware of it too. Seeing that he was in all sense trapped for life, he made a new plan to escape. He further outwitted the police authorities and managed to slip out of the prison. Evans was a boy of deep intelligence, planning, resourcefulness, wit, and wisdom. He starts learning German and is permitted to appear for the O-level test in a separate and well-guarded cell. All the unauthorized items were taken away from him, and he is put under a strict invigilation duty by the prison staff. The governor goes on making enquiries at every short interval. The examination passes smoothly, but Evans pretends to be the bleeding parson. He is taken to the hospital, but for all his careful and cunning strategies, he is finally arrested by the governor in a hotel. We will see later what will happen at the end of the story. The theme of the story tells us about a clash of wit between a criminal and the law enforcing authorities, in which the prisoner Evans befools the jail authorities and manages to escape from the prison. If the government and law enforcing officials are vigilant, crime can be detected and criminals can be booked easily. But criminals like Evans can hoodwink the authorities and escape punishment, as long as the officials are slow and lack alertness and wit. Evans had escaped from the prison 3 times. That is why he was called Evans the Break, and he was a kleptomaniac. He had a desire to steal things, and hence the way he plans his escape for the 4th time with the help of his friends outside the prison earns for him a secret admiration for his cleverness. Now, as we already know that he was a criminal and he was extremely clever, we'll further see what will happen in the story. Now let's begin with the story in detail. In early March, the Secretary of the Examinations Board received a telephonic request from the governor of the Oxford prison to create an examination center in jail for one candidate named Evans. He started night classes in O-level German last September. He was the only one in the class. The secretary made other routine enquiries and promised to send all the forms and stuff. The cell of Evans was turned into the examination room. A parson from St. Mary Mag's was to work as invigilator. The governor did not tell the secretary that Evans the Break had already escaped from prison 3 times. He would have done so from Oxford prison if there had not been unrest in the maximum security establishment up north. The governor of Oxford prison took personal interest to see that Evans got no chance to escape. One day prior to the examination, that is, on 7 June, Evan's German teacher shook him by the hand at 8:30 p.m. and wished him good luck. They met in the heavily guarded recreational block just across from D-Wing. At 8:30 the following morning, that is 8th of June, Evans had two visitors, Mr. Jackson, the senior prison officer on D-Wing, and Mr. Stephens, a burly, surly-looking man only recently recruited to the profession. Mr. Jackson mockingly addressed Evans as Einstein. Evans' face was unshaven, and he requested Mr. Jackson to let him shave himself. Jackson instructed Stephens to make sure that he took his razor out of the cell. Mr. Jackson told Evans that he had got half an hour to smarten himself. He asked Evans to take off that filthy looking hat. Evans replied that it had brought him luck throughout his life and requested to be allowed to keep it during the examination. Children, this hat has a very great role to play in the story, and you will be revealed about it later. At 8:45 the same morning, Reverend Stuart McCleary left his bachelor flat in Broad Street and stepped out briskly towards the prison. The temperature was considerably below normal. A long black overcoat and a shallow-crowned clerical hat provided welcome protection from the steady drizzle, which spattered the thick lenses of his spectacles. In his right hand, he was carrying a small brown suitcase, which contained all that he would need for his morning duties. The 2-hour examination was scheduled to start at 9:15 a.m. Two small square tables were set opposite each other. Two hard chairs were placed in front of the tables. Jackson told Evans that the governor himself was going to listen in. Jackson would be watching him like a hawk. He asked Evans to keep his nose clean. Evans nodded. He had his number 2 handkerchief lying ready on the bunk. Just before leaving his cell, Jackson wished Evans good luck. In the little lodge just inside the prison's main gate, McCleary signed his name neatly in the visitor's book. From there, he walked side by side with a silent prison officer across the exercise yard to D-Wing. Here, he was greeted by Mr. Jackson. The wing's heavy outdoor was unlocked and then locked behind him. The same was done to the heavy inner door. McCleary was now to be looked after by Stephens. Jackson murmured if he had got the razor, and Stephens nodded. McCleary followed Stephens to the cell where Evans was kept. Stephens opened the peephole and found Evans completely engrossed in a textbook of elementary German grammar. Stephens took the key from its ring and the cell lock opened. It was 9:10 a.m. The governor instructed Jackson to tell Evans of the temporary little precaution. The governor thought that Evans might try to take advantage of McCleary. Evans had been got rid of any potential weapon. But what about innocent McCleary? He might bring a jackknife, Evans might hold him a hostage, and many other things can happen. The governor phoned Jackson, who lightly frisked McCleary's clothes. Then he searched the contents of the suitcase. He was puzzled to find a semi-inflated rubber ring, but McCleary explained that he suffered from hemorrhoids, and when he sat for a long time, it was really problematic. Then he found a paper knife at the bottom of the case. Very politely, he took it away. The examination started a bit late. The governor heard the voices of the invigilator and the examinee. It was now 9:20. Evans objected the presence of Stephens as it disturbed his concentration. The governor ordered Jackson to get Stephens out of that cell. Then the examination began at 9:25 and there was a great calm in the room. At 9:40 a.m., the examination board rang through. An assistant secretary informed the governor that there was a correction slip which the dealing hand had forgotten to place in the examination package. The governor put him straight through to Mr. Jackson in D wing. Meanwhile, he checked whether the phone call was fake or some signal or a secret message. He dialed the number of the examination board but heard only the beep of a line engaged. 2 minutes later, the governor heard some whispered communications in the cell. McCleary was dictating the correction. The governor had taken German in the sixth form. He remembered all about the agreements of adjectives. Then he received a phone call from the magistrate's court. They needed a prison van and a couple of prison officers for a remand case. For the first quarter of an hour, Stephens had dutifully peered through the peephole at intervals of 1 minute or so, and after that, every 2 minutes. At 10:45 a.m., everything was still all right. Evans, with his pen between his lips, sat staring straight in front of him towards the door, seeking some inspiration from somewhere. Opposite him sat McCleary. His hair was clipped pretty closely to the scalp. At 10:50 a.m., the receiver made a short, sharp sound. The governor realized that he had almost forgotten Evans for the few minutes. Evans was asking if he could put a blanket round his shoulders as it was a bit chilly there. McCleary told Evans to be quick about it. At 10:51 a.m., Stephens was surprised to see a grey blanket draped around Evans' shoulders. He frowned slightly. He looked at the examinee more closely. At 11:20, the receiver once more disturbed the silence of the governor's office. McCleary informed that Evans had only 5 minutes remain. The examination was almost over now, but something was still quietly in the governor's mind. It was going on at the back of his mind. He reached for the phone call once again. At 11:22, Jackson shouted along the corridor to Stephens. The governor wanted to speak with him. Stephens picked up the phone and listened to the rapidly spoken orders. Stephens himself was to accompany McCleary to the main prison gate. He was to make absolutely sure that the door was locked on Evans after McCleary had left the cell. At 11:25 a.m., the governor heard the final exchanges. He heard the door clang for the last time. The exam was over. Stephens walked beside McCleary to the main gate. His long black overcoat encouraged the illusion that he had suddenly grown slimmer. Stephens felt pleased that the governor had asked him and not Jackson to see McCleary off the premises, and the morning had gone pretty well. He re-entered D wing and opened the peephole of the cell of Evans. He saw a man sprawled in his chair. The front of his closely cropped, irregularly tufted hair was covered with red blood, which had dripped already through the small black beard. It was now spreading over the white clerical collar and down into the black clerical front. Stephens shouted wildly for Jackson. The words penetrated McCleary's ears. He felt for his handkerchief and held it to his bleeding head. He gave a low moan and tried to speak, but his voice became gradually quieter and then stopped. Police and ambulance were called. McCleary slowly raised himself. He found the German question paper on the table. He told Jackson to get the governor. I know you might be wondering that if this is McCleary, then who was the person whom Stephens had taken of the premises. The secret will be revealed in the next part of the story, and there is a lot more to come. We have a lot of twists and turns in the story. Please stay connected and please go through the text to know more about it. Thank you.